Time for another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here. Yes, a fatigued inmendham. Yeah, I had a really rough night. I had some sort of disease, okay, for like a 24-hour period. It wasn't just a flu or something, it's some kind of something. Probably Lyme disease, I think, again. Because the symptoms were sort of the same, except I didn't have a fever. Chills, sweats, everything aches, nauseous, just as miserable as you can be, I think. I don't think I could have been much more miserable. And penicillin, okay, did fix it mostly. I mean, I think I'm probably better. I'm just so exhausted and wiped out from being so horribly uncomfortable. Yeah, well, I still have a headache. But anyway, it just seems bizarre that I could have gotten ticked again. I mean, I moved, got out of Tickville. But, as urban as this place is, the other night I saw, a full horny buck walking down the street, So anyway, it's just disappointing, blah, 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 blah. And sorry, my performance will be weak, because I'm weak, sort of unprepared in some respects, and so forth. But I'm much better. I mean, I couldn't even walk this morning. It was just so bad. Anyway, so I did, and it always happens when something a little bit interesting is happening. So there's a few interesting things happening, and this had to get in my way. But anyway, so I did get an email from one of these low-watt journalists from France, and it's just so annoying because all they want to do is make me responsible for terrorists, and I didn't invent terrorism. It's not my idea. I've never suggested people become terrorists. Ever suggested it. I mean, I've sort of talked a little bit about, well, if you're going to have a civil war, you ought to wait till you can actually win it. So don't have a civil war until you can win the war. Don't declare war until you can win the war. Don't do stupid things like preemptively start it. That might be somewhat related as a subject, but I've never suggested ever, okay? I hate protesters. I don't want somebody blocking traffic, let alone blowing anything up. I don't like saboteurs. I don't like traitors. I don't like cheaters and fucking terrorists. The same thing as extortionists. They're basically saying, accept my philosophy or I'll kill you or hurt you or steal your property or do something stupid. I mean, it's disgusting. Why the anyway. So I've never, ever said anything to encourage anybody to act up. I hate actor-uppers. Okay, fuck the actor-uppers. Squish them like fucking bugs. See, that's the kind of thing I say. But they're not going to say, hey, he said we should squish bad actor terrorists. They're not going to say that, right? Instead, they're going to make up some other lie that I did something. So it's just so bad. Well, anyway, so I told her I would not talk to her because I knew she would just try to sabotage me and force me to answer questions I don't want to answer. And so I said she could submit questions and I'd answer them. So that's my new policy, basically. So I thought I wrote a pretty good little spiel as answers to her questions, and so I thought I would, go ahead and let you know what I said, because it's probably not a terrible thing. Anyway, so she says, to start, how would you define ephilism in your own words? And does it differ from classic antinatalism? So somehow classic antinatalism is well established. It doesn't have any, oh yes, there's extinctionist antinatalist, and there's child-free antinatalist, and there's, what are you talking about? So I should have said something about, what the fuck, classical? No, I'm sorry. Incoherent mush is what antinatalism's state of being is. It's a 900 philosophies pretending to be the same philosophy. I mean, it's squirrels calling themselves rabbits. Anyway, okay, so my answer was, the principle is simple enough. There is no real profit in the creation of sentient vulnerability. The good feelings, which I didn't have last night, do not undo the bad feelings experienced. Yes, and I had a big pile of those bad ones last night. And it was really bad. And you just basically wish to be dead because it's insufferably bad. Anyway, good feelings don't need to be felt. So just, unless they're fixing something that's broken, you don't need a good feeling, right? You just need not to have a bad feeling. That's pretty obvious. Okay. And bad feelings do need to be prevented. Oh, a glitch in the video. Well, I'm not stopping. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty good, right? Okay, as for the distinction between the philosophies, there should be none. Okay. Benatar stated in his book that the antinatalist principles apply to all sentient life. He said it in his book. He did say it. I read it. Okay. Yet he provides no hope for the animal kingdom. So you're claiming, okay, he's conceding, well, yeah, they're in the same predicament, but I will not contrive a solution for them. I won't even try to contrive a solution. I won't even think about, well, we could maybe make a lot of ether. Maybe we could do something, to make it just a magical experience. Maybe we could all bribe them. I don't know. Maybe we could do something. Yeah. Anyway, Ephilism restores the fact that the principles do apply to all sentient life, and it has to be restored because people are saying that somehow, oh yes, it applies, but we don't do anything. So we leave all the equals to drown on the boat, right? So people perfectly equal to ourselves, that's the argument, we jump ship into the lifeboat and we leave them to drown, and that's our solution. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's not good enough. All right. And creates a human responsibility to plan a graceful exit for animal life. I mean, this graceful exit thing is sort of my phrase, right? I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, it's really a concept that I have supported, is graceful, dignified, peaceful. I don't know. So, and again, they're trying to profile me as saying something else, like advocating for something else. And I've never made a sentence on the internet advocating for terrorism. It's just never happened. All right. So, and then she says, how did you first come across antinatalism? Yeah. See, she hasn't done much research, I guess. And more importantly, when and how did the idea of ephilism come to you? Well, so you all know that the ephilism came to me because the antinatalists were all over the place and they weren't useful anymore because they had no principles, right? There was no underlying principle. If you're saying extinctionists and anti-cultural people are the same as, vegans who understand animals need to be rescued, are all the same thing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They're not the same thing. One group wants to create a world where nature rules and we go back to having dinosaurs ripping things to pieces, and the other group knows that no, you can't do it this way. The only way you could preserve anything living is to put it in some synthetic environment where you can protect it, where you can prevent it from having horrible pain and suffering and sickness and death. So if you can't provide that utopia, you got no business voting for dystopia. All right, I have always had a negative opinion of creation. You see, it's true. I woke up on Earth doubting that I was having a good time. Even when I thought there was some good in it, I knew it was too sloppy and reckless to be defended. So this you can go back to like when I talk about when I was a kid and I saw for the first time a guy with one leg, or a dog with one leg. And I saw these different things that gave me some indication. And then, my father burning caterpillars, thousands of caterpillars off of a tree. These little images. And yeah, they're just not, there was no continuity. I couldn't fit them into my brain and say, this makes sense. Okay, that this works. You couldn't sell me this car. I was already smart enough not to buy a lemon. And I knew that if this is what we're set up for, the blind girl was also a big one for me. The perfectly beautiful blind girl walking, in a church, and it was just so. It was so, just so sad that, she'd never see how pretty she was. Very sad. Just unacceptable to me, right? So then and then you could go into all the baby elephants being eaten by lions. You can go into all the diseases that, animals spend a month dying. You can go into the lion walking into the sunset and his tail falls off, and then he just falls over. All of the horrible, awful, terrible ends. Just terrible. Obviously that's too inefficient, okay? You people like, torturing things, okay, so it makes sense to you. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm just letting you know that, okay? Torturing things for no good reason doesn't make any sense to me. Alright. So then the shit started. So I don't know if I'll read all the shit. Pro-mortalism is often described as a radical extension of ethylism. Do you agree with that? If not, why? So I said, the word is silly. I don't know. I don't know anything. What's a pro-mortal? What is that? Pro-mortalism? Too ridiculous on its face. On its face, it doesn't sound like anything good. What does that mean? I don't even know what it. I don't know what it means. It's just too ridiculous a concept. Pro graceful exit maybe, but mortal being dying? No, that's not. You can't be pro that. Okay, and suspect this philosophy is silly. Okay, so the word is silly, and I suspect the philosophy is silly. I have zero interest in or knowledge of the subject. So any connection to me and a pro-mortalist is a lie, a perverse distortion, evil, slanderous lie. Because clearly I don't even know what the word means. But if pro-mortalist means you go out and shoot children, yeah, it's really fucking dumb! God damn! And it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with ethylism. Shooting children has something to do with ethylism? Fuck you! I mean, what the hell? It's like blaming a solar flare on ethylism. What is that crap? Oh, a hurricane. Oh, the hurricane. We'll call it ethyl, because it's the ethylist's fault the hurricane happened. Fuck you. Oh, anyway. So the question was some kind of blah, 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 blah. And I responded, stupid and crazy people make bad soldiers. I've never supported any form of protest or social extortion. Now, the very idea that I'm saying the word social extortion proves that this is a philosophical concept, that I don't like cheating in the battlefield of ideas. Because if cheating is allowed, then yes, the Republicans will cheat, and we'll all lose our rights. So you can't allow cheating, all right? And frickin' that's all protesting is an effort to cheat. That's all unions have become, right? And originally, unions were just fighting for fairness. And now they're just evil, greedy motherfuckers extorting us to give them everything. So fuck them. Fuck the government employees. Fuck them. Yeah, are you gonna quote that? Jesus. I've never supported any form of protest or social extortion. So it's just a fact. I don't think it's right to yell at people. Okay, this is a voluntary video. Okay, I'm not in their front yard like that stupid fat fucker who made the whatever guns for Navarone or whatever the fuck he did. You know, no, that was the General Motors, and he goes to the guy's fucking house. All right, and does this bullshit. I'm just saying, if you think that's what you're entitled to do, you're entitled to win the argument by harassing people and imposing fear and creating a circumstance where they will comply to you merely because they're afraid of you. That sucks. And the fact that any of these morons in any cause, whether it be Mohammed or Jesus or save the trees or whatever it is, whatever your cause is, if you're cheating, it's just that. You're cheating. You have to win the argument. If you can't win the argument, then you're out of fucking goddamn luck. Alright. I have in fact mocked such actions as cheating in the battle of ideas. Yeah, that's what I said. All causes have bad actors and loose cannons. If you don't know that already, you might not be smart enough for this conversation. Fact. Oh, people are just so bad. Alright, so then she said some other little piece of crap, and then I said, some people say humans didn't land. So some people, this is like the Godfrey stuff, you know, these lies, these despicable liars. So she gives me a quote where some people say, she starts a sentence with some people say, fuck you. All right, what kind of journalism is that? Some people say. Who? Despicable liars? Okay, so that's what I'm responding to. Okay, so anyway, some people say humans didn't land on the moon. These people are called liars. If some people say your mother fucked dogs, should I inquire of you if it's true? Yeah, I would. Really, can I submit some questions to you and ask, you know, all kinds of vulgar questions about what kind of, you know, scummy herpes-covered dick you've had in your vagina? Bitch. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Badly. All right. I have explicitly spoken against acting up. I hate acting up. Okay. How long do I have to name the channel? I hate fucking acting up. Do I have to do that? Okay. That's what non-liars recognize. So the truth is that I am not a supporter of any acting up, protesty, terrorism bullshit. Never supported it. Still don't support it, blah, 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 blah. And yet these liars will try to say I have done something inappropriate. So again, I will say, you know, this is a challenge to the Godfrey types. You know, I have a 20-year history on YouTube. I'm willing to have YouTube make every fucking thing I've ever posted or ever said in private messages or in public messages. I'm willing to have that scrutinized by an independent observer, as long as you're willing to do the same thing. So let's put your behavior on the internet on a challenge against my behavior on the internet. I have never solicited anything for anybody. I've never done anything dishonest. I've never done anything to hurt anybody. You're just motherfucking disgusting liars. So will you take the challenge, fucker? I mean, YouTube will probably charge. I'll pay for it. I'll pay to do it. Okay? Because this is obnoxious to have these assholes show up on my videos asking me these stupid fucking questions about what? Well, what about this asshole making these preposterous stories up about how you did some terrible thing to some poor little girl? It never fucking happened. I mean, I just can't, you know, this is disgusting. I mean, as much as I'm a liberal guy, I don't have liberal sex. It just never happened in my life. So I can sort of prove that I have always taken it very seriously, and I'd never get into a relationship for a one-night stand. I've explained that sort of, right? What sense does it make? I sleep with somebody, I really enjoy it, it's really great, and then I never get to do it ever again? I would find that really unpleasant. So I would never want to be in that circumstance. You dumb fucks. God, I mean, these people are just so disgusting. Alright, then she asked another bullshit question. I say, clearly your agenda is bullshit, so fuck you. Then she asked another bullshit question. I said, fuck you. Then she asked another bullshit question. I said, fuck you. I've never even used the word pro-mortalism. That's true that I might have said it once in reading it or something. But I don't know what it is. I don't even get the I can't make anything out of it. I can honestly take a lie detector test and say I have no fucking idea what that could possibly mean. Why that would be a rational philosophical position. Oh, fuck. So she does it again, and I say, okay, so she tried to imply violence, that somehow I have advocated for some violence somewhere. And there's no violence, right? I mean, graceful exit, this is probably a phrase I've said more than any other phrase on this channel, is the phrase graceful exit. What is the, where have I, if you really did do a word search, I mean, you're not going to find a whole bunch of violence words that have anything to do with anything I'm advocating. Okay. So I said, do you think euthanizing a pet is violence? Because, I mean, just think about it. You don't have to think much. Even the elephant getting eaten by a lion, as bad as that is, it could actually be worse. So, you know what I'm saying? If you let it grow up and it gets old, it could get some hideous disease and spend 6 months dying. And that's the part that's just so... God, this is so intractably bad. We are involved in something hideously horrible, okay, that you could actually do something worse. You could actually get something worse. That's just, and so the idea, thinking, if you just think about it a little bit logically, I mean, euthanizing a pet is not violence. It's doing the pet a favor, and most especially if the pet is sick, obviously. And no one would call that an act of violence. All right, anyway. Well, nobody reasonable. Okay. So she then said, if a society were to adopt ephilism, a society? She doesn't even get this, that, oh yeah, it's got to be a whole world thing. You can't... We will complete the ephilism project in, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's not going to work. You can't complete the project in Wisconsin. Anyway, so she can't even get that part right. So she just said, if society were to, if the human race would have been even better. So if she was a little more articulate, she would have said, if the human race were to adopt ephilism, what concrete policies would you implement to achieve the goals in a non-violent way? Well, I would try to do that euthanizing thing. I mean, if I can kill it in milliseconds, sounds like a pretty good thing to me. Sounds like if your dying process is going to be reduced to imperceivable milliseconds, then your dying process can't be very bad. Can you understand that? Or, oh no, that's way over your little fucking dumb cunt. Yeah, alright, anyway. My only obligation is to defend the end. The means will be decided by the human majority that must first be achieved. So again, the reason I'm famous for saying, argue the argument. These arguments have to be made, and we have to win them. Okay, we have to persuade people that their delusions and their baby talk and their wishful thinking isn't doing anything any good. You're just torturing things. People have to see themselves in the mirror and see a manipulative torturer, a sadistic asshole who, just to preserve some silly notion that they're on a spiritual journey, is now sacrificing the welfare of billions of other sentient creatures, forcing things to die in insanely horrible ways, while they, in their privilege, try to extract as much immunity as possible from having to live one of those fates. And we know that if it happens to them, if their kid gets killed by the drunk driver, if they're, we know that all of a sudden they'll get it. All of a sudden, oh, I get why we should have done something if it happens to them. All right, but it has to happen to them for them to see the light. So that's the part where you just say, wow, they're really stupid, but they're really dishonest. And that's the thing I'm really fighting in all these videos, is the dishonesty of people, because they can see it. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that, oh, there is a lot of really bad dying going on here. And a lot of bad disability going on here, and a lot of compromised existences going on here. And that's just for the humans. The animal kingdom, again, if you just understand the attrition rates, you're talking about, 50 babies and only one survives. Would you sentence something to, would you, 10 lion cubs, only one of them is going to get to maturity. Would you be willing to squeeze the life out of the other 9? Can you answer that question? See, maybe I should force anybody who's going to talk to me to answer the fucking question. So if they would be willing, for the glory of life on earth, to squeeze the life out of a lion cub, 9 of them, then maybe at least we'll know they're sadistic lunatics. Okay, so we don't have to worry about having an argument with them because they're sadistic lunatics. How can I argue with a sadistic lunatic? They're not going to be reasonable because they somehow see great victory in torture and pain and suffering. So fuck them. I mean, I can only talk to the people who would pause and say, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't, I couldn't do it. You could do it? I couldn't do it. Even if it was to save myself from pain and suffering, I couldn't do it. I like to think I couldn't do it. But I'm pretty sure I couldn't do it. Because I'm too smart. I know you can't win that way. You can't win just moving your torture to some other organism's brain. Moving torture from this brain to some other brain is not a victory. Of course, unless it's the pro-lifer's brain. Yeah, it's a victory then. Fuckers. I mean, really, this is, they're trying to pretend they care and they love, and they don't do any of that stuff. They neither care nor love or appreciate or respect. They don't do any of that. They just want to fuck things for their own benefit. They want to feed on it. Suck its blood like fucking vampires. And they're going to call me violent? Fuck you! Alright, I'm back. Much later. And frankly, worse off. So I should have finished the video while I was feeling pretty good by relative comparison. But it's like that with these kind of conditions, whatever this infection thingy, whatever. That they always get worse at night, and it's just something it does. And so it's now triggered my neuralgia, which is, I get this, pain that goes from in my teeth from here to all the way back there. All of the teeth hurt. And it's usually bearable, but because of this sickness, everything's exaggerated. So, And if the brain just memorizes what you have felt recently, and it uses those places to attack you. So it is kind of it's very interesting, but it's interesting like, watching an eyeball explode or something. It's a little gruesome, the interesting part, because it's kind of just very nasty. So anyway, just part of the charm, right, of life. And these are one of the minor stub toe kind of things, right? These are the things that shouldn't bother us at all. Being disabled for 3 days and feeling like shit. And hopefully that's all it is. I mean, hopefully this isn't something else that won't respond to eradication. But anyway, yeah, so I'm really quite miserable. Just just hammering. So I took some painkillers, and so far not much, but hopefully they'll, as this video progresses, do something useful. So it's all this temperature thing too was a problem. I mean, we just happened to have a very cold night, and it got cold down here. And that triggers it. It usually happens in the spring and the fall. So we're sort of heading there, but we're a little early yet. And it's just, really, it's pretty unpleasant. Anyway. So, I guess that's, it's a real subject, just talking about all this bad news. And the fact is if it doesn't happen to you, it's kind of easy to just say, well, who cares? I don't go water skiing, so I don't care about water skiing fatalities, that kind of thing. So people do that a lot, and they think they're immune. I don't have some kind of terrible cancer, and somehow I'm not going to get it, because I'm lucky, and I'm not going to get some worst case scenario taking place. And this also goes for all the people you care about and love, that they might be literally reduced to just a shadow, and brutalized by dementia and all kinds of other crap. And it's got to be insidious to have to watch that. I mean, I was lucky. My parents died fairly gracefully, keeping their wits and their health through most of the process. And dying was just a matter of weeks. And it wasn't horrible. It was more wasting. They just wasted. So it wasn't, stopped eating and, just kind of disappeared. So not so bad. But I can't even imagine if they would have gotten something really serious and been, the knife would have been twisted. That'd be pretty hard to take. That did happen to one of my sisters, who died when she was 30. But I didn't have to watch it because I didn't live in the same state, and so I didn't have to see it. But I heard about it, and that was, it was rough. And I'm just making a simple statement that you people, you pro-lifers, think all of that's worth it. That somehow we're doing something, like we're going to do something besides just die horribly. Generally speaking, that's all you're going to do, right? You're going to live your life, you're not going to do anything spectacular, and then you're just going to die horribly. So you'll have a couple of little fun moments, playing with some appendage you have, and the rest of it's just going to be really bad. And, and you're saying that's worth torturing something for. And that's the part where I just, well, how do you do that logic? I can't find an angle to grasp, to grok that. I can't grok pro-torture. And just conceding that it isn't acceptable. It's above the acceptable level. You know, if it was just stubbed toes, okay, you could make some sort of argument that, oh, my little silly notions and delusions, it's not going to hurt anything enough to be a problem. But that's not the world we live in. Your silly delusions are torturing trillions of sentient organisms every day. Well, billions every day. Well, I don't know. Could be. There's so many. Yeah. All playing a DNA experiment. All being manipulated for the purpose, for no purpose, just because there's a function that says, let's make survivables. And so they'll all try to survive. They all won't, but they'll try to. They'll try to win the musical chairs game, but it's inevitable they'll lose the game. They're not going to win. They're just going to work hard to survive and then die, like everything else they killed. So they'll kill the other losers, and then they'll die too. And you're saying, well, that doesn't sound like a game I would play. I certainly wouldn't push my little toddler into it and say, go play feudal musical chairs, where you will not win. There'll be no sustainable or permanent victory, and defeat will be ugly and grisly. Again, I'm supposed to understand what you're defending. So we have the religious kooks. They'll just say, okay, I have my faith in God, and that fixes everything because God has a plan, and it's this mysterious plan that torture makes sense. And it's okay, but God is good, and God is nice, and he doesn't really torture anything except he tortures all the animals and the people. But it's not torture, because there's a plan to it, and somehow it'll all go away, like you're playing Jumanji or something, and somehow it'll all go away. You go to heaven and it all goes away. Bullshit. But okay, so they have this shield of religion to protect themselves from reason and logic. But that's all it is. It's just a shield against reason and logic. They're saying I don't have to be logical because I have faith. I have irrational belief. So that's bad. But it's even worse, the intellectuals who understand there is no God. There is no justifying function to this mass murder, and it is mass murder of children. So, you're just saying, well, why are they so upset about all these school shooters and other things? Well, when that's nature's way. It just does that all the time. Every microsecond, it's shooting up the room. So why does that upset you? Why does killing, immature organisms bother you? Because it obviously doesn't. When it's human, it bothers you, and then when it's an animal, it doesn't bother you? Does that make any sense? You're an atheist, you don't believe in God, but you somehow think animals can't feel. You have some good reason to believe they can't feel. Even when if you just watch a dog and a cat sleeping, you know they're feeling. They're having an adventure. And it's full of feelings. They're just running from the facts. You can't. How can a rational person who doesn't believe in God sit there and make up some dopey excuse for, exploiting another sentient organism, torturing it for their gratification? You can't. You can say something like, I'm worth it. So say those words to me. Say the words. If you're going to be a carnivore, tell me you think you're worth it. But don't pretend that torture isn't real. Just say you're worth torture. And I'll make the counter argument that you're not worth, rabbit poo. It's just... But these are really the only two kinds of people there are, right? So the God-bothering faith shields that you can't get through, difficult. And then you have the fake atheists who have contrived a whole bunch of theories about reality that are baseless and irrational, that have no hope of being actual descriptions of reality. I mean, there's no hope for you to sit there and attempt to describe the reality and pretend dolphins don't feel, and all these things don't feel. It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And that's what they're living for, though, is these evasions of the reality, so they can escape accountability for being a disgustingly cruel, exploitive shithead, because they won't acknowledge the truth that we're too fucking expensive. Our little good times are too expensive, and you're not paying the price, which is the real problem, right? Because if you could feel their pain, you wouldn't go anywhere near it. You'd say, oh shit, I don't want a taste of that. I don't, if it was happening to you, again, you wouldn't be, I shouldn't say you wouldn't be, because obviously, but these are, it's hard to make a distinction between them sometimes. You can't tell whether there's a fake atheist who really is just religious. Because there are people who, they watch their kid horribly die, and then they say, let's have another one. Let's have a replacement. Let's see if we can kill another one. I mean, they do that. It's just so, whoa. You didn't learn anything from the first misadventure? You killed your kid. You tormented it and tortured it. And you want to do it again? Oh, ridiculous. So I did encounter some people like that. I remember this couple that was on YouTube, and their babies kept dying. Whatever, baby die syndrome. And it's you almost wonder, are they really, did the babies really die, or did you just get sick of listening to it? But I think they tried like 3 times, and they all died. It's like, you couldn't grow a clue. And then it was that claw woman, the newspaper woman, had the claw hands. And it was clear that there was this 50-50 chance that her kids would have claw hands. And she went and said, I'll go ahead. I'll do it. I'll impose that on my kid." And her daughter was spared, but the son was blighted. And the only redeeming truth is he didn't respect her decision at all. He thought she was an asshole. Because you just, you're just like, oh, people can't be this stupid. So, and then you have these really other circumstances that are so obvious. So there was that French woman who had a disease, a tumor, and it was literally pushing her eyeball out of her head. Okay, it was all malignant and unoperable, and they wouldn't let her die. And you're just saying, how could somebody rationalize saying, I'm not going to let you gracefully exit? Who does that? I mean, I can't even imagine what kind of cretin, what kind of hobgoblin of a human being could sit there and look at that anguish and suffering that she had for, months or years, the progressive disease. So she had to live with it happening slowly and just progressively getting worse and worse. And some asshole is going to hear her plea to let her go gracefully. And they say, fuck you, no! You'll offend my God. Or offend something. What the fuck could you possibly offend? I can't even believe French people believe in God, frankly. They're such assholes. Anyway, no offense to French people, but they can't do anything right, so of course they can't even do religion right. But they can't do science right either. But it's just, I can't imagine that you would have a majority of people that would be of the opinion that it's first of all our business to tell her to endure the suffering, to let nature take its insidious course and torture her for no fucking reason. How do you make that understandable? I'm just saying, how do I try to grok you fuckers? And so then people complain that I say something like, I get angry. So you see this in movies all the time. You know, you do this, I'm going to fucking kill you, fucker. So people get angry when bad guys win, or when bad guys do something, and then they say, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to hunt you down, I'm going to pull your nuts off, make you eat them. Lots of Tom Cruise movies with this kind of theme. You know, but anyway... and you're just, and we all wallow in it and say, that's so spectacular when the super criminal gets dissolved in acid or something, and it's just like, that's perfect. Yes, the acid was dissolving. That was a perfect fate for him. You know, like the evil guy in that cartoon movie with the stupid Roger Rabbit movie. You know, and the evil guy got run over by a steamroller. You know, it's almost hard to watch, but it was like, yeah, it's evil. So yeah, he deserved it. But what emotions am I supposed to have about these insidious monsters that like to torture things? I mean, why should I think that's anything other than the epitome of evil? I mean, it's monstrously evil to torture, you know, literally. Your percentage of the biosphere is probably 1 million animals. So you're going to torture 1 million animals so you can pretend you're on some great adventure and you're doing something so special and so super. Because you're so super. No, you're not. You're likely fat and stupid. Oh, God damn. But you're saying how? How do people... You're saying, why would I have to have this argument and explain to people, yeah, the lady with the eye popping out of her head should be allowed to gracefully exit? How could that possibly be an argument? And this is where you have to understand, well, you know, most of that is religion. So you know that religion isn't benign. It's not some, they're just silly people who wear robes and have smoking urns and speak some Latin now and then and go, wee bee 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 bee. You know, they're just doing little silly things. They're not harmful. No, they're fucking harmful. They're sacrificing torture on the altar of their God. They're walking up to their God altar and saying, here's some torture I made for you, God. Yes, I tortured this poor woman for no good reason for you. I don't think if there was a God, he'd be fucking impressed. I can't imagine how he could be impressed. I can't imagine how anything that can think and add 2 plus 2 could be impressed by your bringing of the torture. You know, frankincense, myrrh, and torture. Here's some torture, Jesus. Yeah, I have a vial of torture. Yes. Millions of animals tortured for you. Because I'm special. So reward me because I've brought a whole bunch of torture to your altar to show you how much I love God. And I have so much confidence. And they don't have any confidence. And you know, it's all for the show. There's no reality to this. These religious people don't believe any of this crap. Or they wouldn't be caught, fucking their neighbor's wife every other day. They don't believe any of it. So there really are torturing people for just the posing, just to pretend they're honorable and good Christians. When they're evil, stupid, motherfucking, horrible, torturing assholes. So I guess I'm just saying, it's not improbable that somebody might develop some sort of anger, okay, when you start figuring out who is really evil in the world. And then you start figuring out, the most evil people are these religious assholes with their pro-life nonsense, torturing people for no good reason, torturing the dying. Like, it's not bad enough dying, let's torture you some more. You know, it really is amazing that I just didn't think there was possible for people to be that. I mean, they're almost worse. Like, if there was a monster criminal, they're almost worse than the monster criminal. You know, because you can't get any. Monster criminals don't do this shit. You know. So, it's just amazing. Anyway, so take a little break. It is getting a little better. It's just, pain sucks. Alright, trying to finish up. Alright, so the whole ephilism thing is about the fact that, you know, once you acknowledge that you don't have to be smart to feel, okay? Feelings aren't like, oh, I have to add the equation, and then I have to, you know, transcribe it through an AI, and then, you know, modify it through, you know, you don't have to do any of that to have a feeling. You don't have to do anything complicated. You know, they're really old and really crude functions of our brains. And once you concede that point and recognize that, obviously the other organisms here, the other animals are, yes, they're a little bit bad at math skills, and they're not too good at language. And, you know, dogs learn some words, you know, maybe. But, yeah, they don't understand the word conceptually. They just know the word means hop up and down or something. They know muscle memory, what they're supposed to do. But you don't have to be smart to feel. And so that's one fact. Yeah. And the second fact is, for every one human brain that's feeling and alive, there's a billion animal brains feeling and alive. Probably. So if we're going to rescue, okay, the feeling things, to say you're going to just, well, we'll gracefully exit the human beings and just leave all the animals, the billion to one, and we'll let them be tortured forever. Isn't that a smart plan? Oh, wait, no, that's not a smart plan. It's really stupid. And again, this isn't complicated math. To be able to figure out that most of the experiencing taking place on Earth isn't happening in a human brain, it's happening in an animal brain. And it's happening in a really rough environment in that animal brain, in the sense that they are killed without any mercy. They never get morphine. You know, they don't get anything to ease their pain. And you know, and they're beaten to death, and so even though they struggle and fight to maintain their behavior, you know, they become so. That's what they're programmed to do, is to chase and do this and do that, and they can't do it, and they're going to keep trying to do it anyway. And you know, and there's just it's so horrible. Now I was going to say grizzly, and that reminded me of the bear image from Desert File, you know, where a bear broke into a shed or something, and he didn't understand why the bear was so, you know, low in the camera or something else. So it was not, he wasn't acting like a bear. And then he got some video of the bear on the loose, and you could see that his whole leg had been shattered, and it was just a dead leg, infected, probably gangrenous, who knows. And that the bear had to struggle on the three legs, but he couldn't let the infected leg touch anything, you know. And you could see how awful it was. And again, that's all something you're going to say, let's leave that intact. That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah, we're bad. Bears with busted legs is good. And then all the animal diseases, you know, laying maggots in their brains and all kinds of silly crap. Horrible death. All that's okay, you know. But humans, okay, you know, trying to fix that, Well, there's no point. That doesn't make any sense. Why should we, the smartest, most capable organism on the planet, be responsible? How does that make any sense? I mean, what do pilots have to do with flying planes? What do bus drivers have to do with driving buses, right? They're not responsible. It's another ridiculous argument. I mean, how could people possibly believe there's any sense to, grandfathering out the human race, in a nice, graceful extinction, and leaving nature to torture billions of other organisms? Orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, very close to humans in terms of you've got to argue that they're having the same kind of sensory experience, and that the only thing different about them is, again, they can't do the language thing because of the way their brain is wired. You don't do that. Their brain does the smell thing, and it does the see better thing, and it does other things, but it doesn't do the organized concept thing into words. So, and clearly, you can see that in our function, that we don't have very good senses. And other organisms have much better ones than us, other animals. Because our brain space has been sacrificed to do language. That's why human babies are born so disabled. Other organisms are born, and in 6 months they're ready to go. It takes 18 years to be ready to go. At least 10, let's just say, for humans. A gigantic maturation. And why? Because of this whole socialization, maturation, language learning. That's, so we were eradicated of instinct. So a new operating system could be installed that was focused on visualizations and conceptual comparisons. I mean, it's all good science to this stuff. That it's not how big our brain is, it's about how it works. That's what makes the difference. So anyway, no video. Anyway, it wasn't bad considering, I thought there was no hope I'd be making a video last night. So I guess we're way ahead. So I shouldn't, I won't complain. I won't complain. And you shouldn't either. So anyway, so till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. This has been, donotgod.com video production. Yeah, it's okay. It's on YouTube, but so what? Do Not God produced it. Okay, so till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot.